Hello, Ellen Duro. I'd like to call the Town of Niskayuna Conservation Advisory Council meeting to order. It is October 8th, 2025, and I am sitting in for Dart. So may we do the call?
Laura, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Oops. Yeah, I didn't have my microphone on. I'll just say it again. Online, we have Clark Henry and Chuck Petrowski, and in person, we have Dan McPherson, Portia Zwicker, Joy Wang, Ashok Ramasubramanian, and acting chairperson Ellen Daviero. Thanks, Clark.
Okay, so the first item up is the approval of minutes. So we have two sets. So let's start with July 9th, 2025. Does anybody have any comments for July 2025 minutes? So I have one. I just think it was like a typo, and it was like instead of being, it had two and night separated, so to make it tonight. And I think it was line 29, presented to I think it's tonight and the final leg. Anyways,
Oh, yeah, I see that.
and that but that's all that I had. Did anybody have anything else?
No.
Okay, hearing nothing else, can I have a motion to accept the minute for July 9th, 2025? To accept the minutes. Great.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstains? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the second set of meetings minutes, and that is for August 6th, 2025. Did anybody have any comments on those meeting minutes? I personally did not. I thought that they looked good to me. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes for August 6th, 2025. I have a motion.
Wait, who first did?
I did, but you.
Oh, you did. Okay. I gotcha.
Portia.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody would like to sustain or nay? Hearing none. I think we can move on. So privilege of the floor. So we have no one that is present currently in the audience here at Town Hall. Do we have any that is online?
No, and we didn't receive any written comments this month either.
Okay. So with that being said, I will close the privilege of the floor. And then we'll move on to the environmental assessment form referrals. So the first one was the EAF 2025. It was for 3406 Albany Street. And it was a site plan application requiring a special use permit for the operation of a place of at a single family home. So
yeah, and you don't actually need to take action on this tonight. We did have it as a discussion item before. It is moving along. The planning board is making their recommendation to the town board up this month. But the town board still has to call a public hearing. So I think you have at least one more month. And also they haven't filled out the environmental assessment form yet. So
okay.
We should have that for you by next month, but this would be a good meeting to catch up on the additional things that have been added and ask questions so that you can be ready at the next month to make a recommendation. Clark pointed out to me that my agenda statement is actually a little bit behind because I brought the wrong one over from the planning board. But the last time you guys looked at this project, it was just very brief, and we talked about the fact that that this property had a garage in the back. And that garage was removed and a new structure was built, and that structure is being used as a house of worship, a place of worship. It's like Buddhist. monks and they call it a meditation room. So they have generally represented that it's very quiet and they have been coming to the planning board, I think, for a while now. One of the things that, has come up at the planning board, which we discussed a little bit at one of the last meetings, was parking. It took a while for the planning board to kind of nail down what was the regular amount of people that come to the property and the regular amount of vehicles. And for a regular Sunday, it's between 3 and 5 vehicles that they use regularly. But they do have larger events, which we put the calendar of the events in there. That's sort of like thinking about the Carrot Festival, though not that big.
Yeah.
Or like, like at the JCC when they do their Hanukkah sing along. So in case they have big events, which they did put on their calendar, on the right in the red, you can see that they have in writing the ability to use the parking at Upstate Guns and Ammo. So that gives them some parking spaces over there. Since this agenda statement was created, or maybe around the same time, we also got a letter from Graham's Coffee Parlor, which is directly to the north there. They do not have a lot of parking, but they also offered their parking for the bigger events.
So can I ask a question? So it was my understanding that they said between 3 and 25, 3 and 25 families is about. Is that
Well,
that was a
Yeah, that was like the confusing thing when we first started looking at it,
but it
because
didn't seem like when they adjusted it that it changed. I didn't see the numbers.
so it's 3 to 5 families on regular Sundays,
Right.
and then I think they say it's up to 25 on their big holidays.
Okay, that's okay.
Although Clark and correct me if I'm wrong, Clark, but we recently heard them say that they're even holding their bigger events off-site now.
Oh, okay.
But I think maybe they still have, because the monk actually lives in this house.
Okay.
So I think that it's still good to plan for if they have big events occasionally.
Okay.
One of the more technical things about this is figuring out what the required number of parking spaces is. So, when you look at the area that they use for the house of worship is this long rectangular thing here. And our code has a couple different ways that you can calculate what the parking requirement is for a house of worship. A lot of times it's seats, but if you were looking at the picture here,
Yeah.
they kind of just like make their own seats. So we can, I think, probably, if we're concerned about the number getting too big, like kind of actually limit the number of seats in that building, even though it's actually it's not like traditional pews, but there's definitely, you could call it seats. Another thing you could do is just measure the straight square footage. There's a big difference between calculating it by seats and square footage, though. We did do a calculation for the planning board, which we can send to you. But they have a lot more parking requirements if we do it by square footage. And then the other way you can do it is by calculating what the building inspector would call the maximum occupancy of the building. But the maximum occupancy of the building is also quite high because it's sort of like standing room. So
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments or things that they would like to bring up?
I've read the site plan and the other stuff a couple times, and I'm still not clear. What are they actually doing to the property?
yeah, so it's a really good question. They're not actually proposing a whole lot of changes because they have been using it as a house of worship for quite a while. If you do drive by, you can kind of see there's like 2 parking spots in the front, maybe 3 if you kind of park on the grass, which you're not really supposed to do. And then there's a driveway that goes like behind the fence. So they're actually proposing can you see my cursor up there? Right there, inside the fence, they're proposing that they can build 3 banked parking spaces, although I think they do actually use them now already. But they can build them with grass pavers so that it looks like lawn and would stay green, and that would give them additional parking spaces that they need for their Sunday services. Other than that, I actually don't think they're proposing any additional site changes except for the
That would come-
parking,
What's there now, Laura, where they want to put the spots?
just grass.
Okay.
And they actually park on the grass. But they were saying like if they were gonna pave or it gets really rainy or something, they can put the grass pavers down so that it doesn't get gross. Yeah.
I'm good, Ellen.
Okay.
I guess I'd just like to add, Laura, one of the things that Laura and I have done also for the planning board, and we could share it with you guys before the next meeting, is we've gone through very closely the zoning code requirements for a special use permit. And we've looked at all the different sections of the code that need to be considered. And two of the big areas for this project are the overall size of the lot relative to the code, and then the parking, like Laura mentioned. So again, with the way we understand it, they're a very quiet group, and the boards may be comfortable with certain mitigations to allow that use on an undersized property. But that's one of the things that people will have to look at as they review the project.
When you do see the EAF though, they'll put out there, but they're actually not proposing to create any additional impervious because the grass tax pavers, they are permeable. So they're not, I don't think they're proposing to change any impervious. The building was actually built with a building permit, but the use, it was built as a garage. The use to convert it into a meditation room was not allowed, which is why they have to go through the whole thing. And what they rebuilt really isn't a garage. It doesn't have a garage door or anything. It only has a man door. So it really is built probably more to serve a meditation room, but it was built with a building permit. So there really won't be a whole lot of physical changes to the property. When you're looking at the environmental impacts, you're really looking at the use, if it would be, appropriate on a smaller lot, if there's ways to mitigate the fact that it's much smaller than a normal parcel for a house of worship would be. We did have a public hearing at the planning board, and a lot of people came out in support. We did get one letter that said that they are concerned about parking on the side streets and noise. So those are definitely two things that we have to keep an eye on. But generally speaking, I think, what do you think, Clerk? At least 4 or 5 people spoke.
Properties that are willing to share their parking, and one person who worked at one of those properties, and then another resident. And we did have one resident write to Laura who was concerned with parking and noise.
Is parking not allowed on Gassner Avenue?
On-street parking is allowed on Gassner Avenue. And there's plenty of spaces where you can park your car on street, but our code doesn't allow you to count on-street parking towards your parking requirements because
Nice thing about the parking spots that are identified in red there is that business is closed on Sunday, and the vast majority of their gatherings occur on Sundays. The other property that's willing to share parking, we're assuming is open on Sunday, so they may have limited numbers of spaces to fill. We actually haven't checked on what their parking situation is, but this site here should have several parking spaces available on Sundays.
Would we be under any obligation as a town to make a safe crosswalk there for such, for such a regular occurring activity?
That's come up. Complete Streets actually asked about that. Albany Street is a county road though, and so getting a crosswalk paint on there. I think you'd have to probably, it might be a heavy lift. We could certainly recommend it. Yeah.
Understanding of that, like the parking is great and all, but that is they would have to dash across that road.
Yeah.
There's no safe place to walk, to walk across that road.
Yeah. And actually striping a crosswalk is very low cost. I mean, it's not, the crosswalk itself isn't a big ask, but the approval process for putting a crosswalk on a county road can be.
One more detail without getting too far into the weeds. We also have, as Laura mentioned, this structure in the back was built and permitted as a garage. The proposal is to use it as a gathering place, a meeting place. So we also have the building inspectors reviewing that code relative to the code for a garage. So we don't have a complete report from them yet, but whether the level of insulation meets the stretch code or energy codes or things like that. So that still remains to be determined as well. So there's a lot of, this is a fairly complicated project, or it's got a lot of unique features to it.
So when they applied for their permit, they applied though to take down the garage and to put up another garage?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I see in the picture, people, they're sitting on, they're each individual one. Is there and they all look like they're spaced, about the same amount. Does that, I wonder if that is, how if it has to be a certain amount away from each other.
I mean, you could use that as a way of calculating
Area.
seats. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think based on our interactions with them, I think that's kind of a very typical Sunday right there.
Okay.
A very typical regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I,
Yeah, we've done a sidewalk. That is what it looks like inside.
Okay.
They're very accommodating and always invite you to come and see and look.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments that they would like to make regarding this before we?
No.
Are you?
You mentioned there is another public hearing?
The town board has to have a public hearing because it
Okay.
needs a special use permit. So it needs a special use permit to be a house of worship in a residential zone. And it also needs a special use permit because there's still a single family home on that property. So it's 2 uses. And part of that special use permit, to Clark's point, is that they have to acknowledge that it is smaller than what would normally be required by zoning for a house of worship.
Gotcha.
So will they send out letters to their neighbors?
So the planning board already did.
Okay.
Yeah. The town board just does a posting. The planning board sends letters to the neighbors.
I have a comment. As Dan mentioned, that their minor site plan is unclear. So they mostly listed the dates of their services. So it would be good to have them to update or revise the site plan to explicitly state what they really want.
Yeah, I think they did. It might just be a little bit behind. But yeah, Clark and I worked pretty hard with them to make sure that they did explicitly state that.
yeah, as Laura mentioned, there's been quite a few meetings at the planning board, and I think some of the questions get a little more clear with each meeting. And one of the things that we learned relatively recently was that although some of their holidays fall on different days, they celebrate the majority of them on Sunday. I think a very significant majority of them on Sunday. So I think most of their meetings are on Sundays, with a few special events, as Laura mentioned, with a larger crowd.
Yeah, they have told us that even if the holiday falls on like a Wednesday, they actually still push it to a Sunday. And they said partly their congregation is working So that's why they do everything on Sundays and they carpool because they don't.
Laura, I
Um,
don't know if this was in the documents, but I assume that the person that lives in the house is part of this congregation, right?
Oh, he's the monk. Yeah, the monk lives
Okay.
in the house. Yeah.
They're
No,
not
it-
disturbing a family.
No, so it's like it's sort of like there's a lot of parcels in Niskuna that have a church and had a pastor's house on the parcel. That's not actually that's not an unusual combination to have a church and a single family home, typically, with the pastor or the monk or whoever living in the house. What's unusual about this one is how small it is.
So does that, so they're currently paying taxes on building,
Yeah, as a single family home.
but
Mhm.
then when they move to a religious, will they no longer be paying taxes on that home then?
I have no idea. That is like an assessor question, I would guess.
Okay,
But I have no idea. Okay. I mean, there's still going to be a single family home, so I don't know that they would be exempt, but I have no idea.
okay. I was just curious.
And yeah, so I'm just zooming in. They're calling out 30 seats max. So when they call out 30 seats max, it comes up with a requirement of 8 parking, which is what they're showing on their map.
Okay.
So I think 1, 2, 3, 4. That picture shows about 19 seats.
So, and that's some of the detail that the planning board will have to get into. Or by that, Laura, would you view that as they're limiting their occupancy to 30 people?
Yeah.
Because I think when the building inspectors do it by square footage, they would say you could have quite a few more than 30 people in that building.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that is the next step for the planning board, is to work through some of those parameters and actually define occupancy or how many parking spaces are required based on the code, from some interpretation of the code.
And that interpretation of the code will determine how many parking spaces they must have, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, it will identify a code requirement, which is what we're just trying to do from the code standpoint. But then there's actually quite a bit of interpretation that the planning boards or the boards could do in the code itself for a special use permit. So even if they say X number of parking spaces are required, the boards could still say, based on this use, based on certain factors, they're comfortable with less parking than that.
Okay. And that's what really, I guess, matters to us then, is going to be, whether it significantly changes the environment and or the character of the neighborhood. So if they're paving over a yard, even if it is just one home, and putting in a bunch of parking spaces, that potentially could have negative environmental and aesthetic impact on the neighborhood. And that's what we'd be looking at, right, in our.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Right.
think the planning board still needs to formalize things, but I think that, and this is just my paraphrasing, that they have kind of settled on the 30 seats, 8 parking spaces. They do need to put that on record and formalize it, but what you just said, Chuck, was a point that they already did discuss, is if we do end up requiring 20 parking spaces, and then it would require, that much change to the single family home, it wouldn't work there. So
This is a stretch of an analogy, but we just looked down the street, right, at the car dealer who asked for a parking lot. And I know, so when I look for like comparisons in the same neighborhood, we had significant concerns about that area being turned into a parking lot. And here's yet another one down the street a little bit. Maybe it's a block, it's a block behind, obviously. But again, does this become, the Niskuna parking district at some point, right?
yeah, no,
So just something to think about.
that's really fair. They aren't even actually proposing to build those 3 banked parking spaces. It would only be if they were needed. So right now they're operating and they don't feel like they need to build them, which is why they're requesting for them to be banked. So bank means that they just hold them kind of in escrow, and then we monitor the site. And if it does seem like there's too much off-street parking or something, then the planning board can require that they get built. But this one is actually proposing the 2 spaces that are available in like sort of the existing driveway, 1 space that's kind of like down by the end of the house, and then 3 banked parking spaces. Oh. But anyway, yeah, I think we are letting them stack the cars in the driveway.
Okay, so I just had one other question. So on those banked parking spots, so if as this progresses along, if you have if you are whatever the process that they're going through the planning board and the zoning board and all the things to get where they're at, are they allowed to claim the parking spaces of another business to use for their business if that business says it's okay?
If they're required by code, it needs to be with easement. But yeah, our comprehensive plan does encourage cross parking easements. We have one on 1769 Union Street
Okay.
because it means less parking. But
Okay.
you have to show that the parking spaces aren't going to conflict with each other,
Okay.
right? So that's why it's really important that Upstate Guns and Ammo is closed, because you can't share parking spaces with adjacent business if our code calculates that they need 20 and these guys need 10, and so
Okay.
we do actually encourage cross easements, but they have to be complementary uses.
And refresh my memory, Laura. So with the easement, would that be with the property going forward or just with that current owner of that property?
Yeah, no, the
So-
easement is with the property going forward, but
Okay.
like what we discussed at the planning board is that an easement on this case wouldn't be required because we're not calculating for the mega events. We don't make Agudat Akeem build a parking lot to handle the Carrot Festival. Their parking lot handles the number of seats that they have in their synagogue. So this parking lot should handle the number of seats that they have during their regular Sunday worship. And then if they have an occasional event, they notify the police, they work with their neighbors, they get the same benefits that any other religious, organization has to have a celebration.
You mentioned Graham's also has overflow parking, but that's not an official part of this.
Well, they
Right.
also provided a letter that says that they can use their parking on the big event days.
Okay, because Graham's is open every day.
That's what
the
Clark
thing.
was just saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
But
Again,
again,
thinking about what I wanted to say instead of listening.
yeah, they've been going back and forth a lot. And I think it was important to them to show that they do have this additional parking. But according to what they're submitting, this additional parking isn't required. So it doesn't need an easement. So it is nice that Graham sent a letter saying that you can use the parking. But we're essentially not calculating it. It's just there so that we know that would happen if they have a big event, or if for some reason they can't all carpool one day and they need a couple extra spots, they're going to be parking at Upstate Guns and Ammo.
Yeah, as we mentioned, this is an interesting project because it's essentially a scaled down place of worship where the congregation is smaller than a lot of other places of worship. The location is quite a bit smaller. Our code calls for 5 acres for a place of worship. This is something like 0.3 acres, but the congregation is much smaller. So that's why the boards may look at some of that and say that can be mitigated based on certain requirements. And then you almost have to be thinking too, what if their congregation grows and they want to expand in the coming future? That could be a delicate situation as well. Just based on some of the RLUIPA law that Laura's circulated, it can become tricky if a place is trying to expand. I don't know if we've had any other places of worship expand their facility, but just things to think about.
Yeah, and RLUIPA is essentially a national law that protects religious land uses from zoning that, essentially is to keep them out, right? So you have to use the least restrictive, and it requires that you have to use the least restrictive interpretation of your zoning code when it comes to religious facilities, because the right to whatever religion you want in our country is a very protected thing. So
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments they'd like to share before we move on to the next item on our agenda?
Nope.
Okay, so that brings us to our discussion items. So under planning projects, we have the 2025 comprehensive plan for the seeker referral. So
oh yeah, so this is just so we've been working on updating the 2025 comprehensive plan. Ashoka's on the committee for I think 2 years actually, and we are putting together all the different chapters now with the comments that we've been collecting. We did the public surveys, we did the in-person houses, and we will have a draft for everyone to review in November. It's possible that you could have November and December to take action on it, but we are trying to adopt it by the end of the year. So I will get it to you guys as early as possible. And what we'll do is we'll do a summary of what the changes are. But when you adopt and like we're not rewriting the whole comprehensive plan. We're using the original chapters and we're adding things in. We tried to, see, okay, I think a recommendation in the old 2013 comprehensive plan was to get a roundabout at the Rexford Bridge. Well, we have one now. So like that recommendation goes away and then a new recommendation like comes in. So the bulk of the plan isn't really that different. So if you like conceptually wise, if you want to get a head start, you could look at the 2013 plan. But what we'll do is we'll have like a matrix for you of kind of the things that we added from the 2013 to the 2025 and and then we can just go through it with you. But I would plan for a longer meeting in November so that we can go through that with you guys.
Okay. All right, and then does anybody have any questions or comments that they would like to? Okay. And then the next one is the Niskayuna Harbor updates.
Yeah, so Niskayuna Harbor is slowly sputtering back to life. That's the one that's directly next to River's Ledge. It needed to have the ability to cross the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. It needed to have a National Grid crossing. It needed to have the town board allow for the plan unit development application to happen, and it needed to get its wetland determination. All of those pieces are starting to fall into place. So I think they will be submitting to the next planning board meeting, and so that one you'll be seeing that one again in the near future.
Does anybody have any comments that they would like to make on that? So the only thing that I would like to say is that I would really like us to reach out to and try to mitigate and change some of the things that we got wrong with River's Ledge, especially with the Alplaus community and the night sky and and how we ruined or how the aesthetics are from the other side of the river. And I think it's like very important because, those are all homeowners that live and are part of the community for Niskayuna. And it is drastic. River's Ledge, I understand. I know that they use their night sky, they're down facing, but if you drive across that bridge, it's like it's lit up like a Christmas tree compared to it being total darkness and serene and along the river. And I really think that we need to, as a community, really push back hard on this and make sure that it is something that the Alplaus, are well aware of what's coming so that they can, voice their concerns as well.
Mhm.
Because I think that it's, yeah, I think we should learn from our mistake.
Yeah, it's a really good
Yep.
comment.
And
I
then,
think that's a great point too, Alan. We've been keeping the Niskuna Architectural Review Board up to date on that project. So they talked about that a little bit during the September meeting. And someone had even mentioned that there may not be streetlights in Niskuna Harbor because there's a movement kind of away from those, at least in condo communities, which is what Niskuna Harbor would be. They also don't have as many people directly across the river where Niskuna Harbor is. I guess it's more of a wooded area, but that definitely is on their mind. We reminded them about even things like the white siding that is very bright when viewed from across the river. So we will keep that in their minds going forward.
great, thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And Laura and team, I forgot, this would include land that was part of the original Erie Canal, correct?
Well, yeah, it goes right through the site plan, just like on River's Ledge. It goes right through the northern part of the site plan. They don't technically own it, but we do like to see if we can, like, public access to the Erie Canal bed, if there's anything that we can do to improve and allow people to have that history. We do like to see that. It's been quite a while, but you guys, when the PUD application was being submitted to the town board, you had a kind of list for them to look at, and one of them is that you wanted to see access from this planned development to the river, and they did conceptually come up with a kayak launch. And then, yeah, one of I think the points was the public trails system would be really important to see on this plan. I think you did already recommend the lighting.
Yeah,
So,
sure I did.
yeah.
I,
When we bring that back and make sure, I know that list is in the planning board agenda statement because it went to the town board, but I'll make sure that that comes back so you guys can review that too.
great, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any other comments on the Niskuna Harbor updates? So the only other thing that I was just wondering about the Erie Canal is that I know that this is the 200th anniversary of the Erie Canal, and I know that there are grants available purposely for improving, sections of and making access to the Erie Canal. Is that has anybody? I know that they really did a nice job improving Lock 7 down there, but I just was wondering if it was on anybody's radar that maybe we could use it for other things along the river. It just sort of popped into my head because I was looking at for composting grants today, and I saw a lot of Erie Canal grants instead. So I was just curious if I just would. I'm not an Erie Canal expert. I just was just curious. So I'm just going to put that out there in the universe. Okay. And then the third on the planning projects is the zoning code amendment updates.
Yeah, there really aren't too many updates since the last time we saw that. It's just a lot to go through those schedules. So when that's ready, it'll come back to you guys.
Okay, great. All right. So that, does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay. So that brings us to our Climate Smart Communities Task Force. So why don't we move in with the awarded contracts for the GHG emissions inventories and government climate action plan?
Okay. So I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but the town of Niskuna did get awarded the bronze to be a climate smart community.
Yeah, I saw that. Yay!
So we are
Round of
working on
applause.
like an internal press release email blast. I actually saw it and it was pretty good, but we haven't released it yet. So
Okay.
it'll come out, and we have 2 little signs that are upstairs in my office that we can put. They're really nice. That announce to people that we're a bronze certified climate smart community. So we should be thinking about where we want to put those, and we're certified for 5 years. So, yay.
Fantastic. There was a lot of hard work that was done with that. So hats off to everyone who took part and put their 2 cents in there and helped. All right, so that brings us to the natural resource inventory. You have any?
Actually, we could probably take that one off the list now, right?
Yeah. Figured we accepted, right?
Yeah. So the second phase is complete, and I have started looking into grant opportunities for implementation of the recommendations presented in the NRI. I've been looking into the Mohawk River Basin agenda and some other aspects of the DEC. That's all. Thank you.
Do you want to talk? We're also, Ellen and I have been working on getting some implementation on the Fieldstone Estates trails with some Girl Scout troops.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so I think the last time we met, I talked about trying to involve some community members in making the Fieldstone area more used, as as well known, and like the plan was for it to be set for spring 2026. And so I sent a preliminary email to Laura just with some small, with groups that I thought could be helpful with this. And then, sort of my small 4-point checklist of things that I thought that we could do, but I also was open to anybody else's suggestions. And then, but I wanted to make sure that it was okay with, Laura and Ray and, I'm sorry, and Aaron, Aaron and the other Andrew from Parks. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page and it was all okay before I started sending emails all around, Niskayuna. So, and then Laura got back to me that she thought that a lot of the things on my checklist could be accomplished by both some of the Girl Scouts. And so she met with Ray and Aaron, and they came up with a tentative plan. And then I actually emailed, I sent the email out today to Courtney, who is, she's, is it the bronze? I don't know what their silver award. So for Girl Scouts. And so they have a list of things that they would like to do. So I'm going to meet with them when it's convenient. And then we're going to kind of go from there. I think I have a lead to an Eagle Scout who might be interested in building stairs if the Girl Scouts don't want to do that. And then we're going to walk the site, Laura and I, next week during lunchtime. So if anybody is interested in joining us, I think we picked Wednesday at noon just because it is supposed to be sunny. So, so if anybody wants to join us, you're more than welcome to. I think that's all I have for that part of it.
What sites?
Oh, just the Fieldstone, just
just Fieldstone.
Fieldstone. It was part of the natural resource inventory. And I just felt like it was one of the places that not that many residents in Niskayuna visit in comparison to, other places. So we thought maybe we would do that. That's basically all what I just picked it. That's all So.
It was in the high level, one of the high level recommendations that we thought semi low hanging fruit that we might be able to get people out there and get it more accessible.
Yeah. And I believe that the Ray's crew last winter, working with Andrew, worked on a bunch of stuff because they were when it wasn't when they weren't the crews weren't working on snow and stuff like that. They had kind of a checklist of things that they wanted to do around town, and I think that Fieldstone on there was some of the issues were taken up. So yeah, so that's the thought process. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so then, all right, so we'll go to the ongoing initiatives. So let me just see. All right, so we have pesticide outreach, the composting initiative. So, so for those two, this is just the same thing. So I have 2 more weeks at the farmer's market for the composting pilot program, where people can bring me their compost. I put it in a bin and then I bring it over to the Schenectady Urban Farms so people can compost without having to have it in their backyard. I would say that I'm going to go with it's a success. So, I mean, I think we have, the minimum of 50 pounds of, minimum 40 pounds of compost that we bring every week, as high as like 95. I have a chart and all the people afterwards. And I spoke with Yarrow from the Schenectady Urban Farm, and he said that I can continue doing it all year, as long as my outreach isn't above 100, because that's what he can take from us. So, because it's where they also bring the Schenectady lunch program compost. So I've kind of worked out a deal with him, and I'm kind of going to send out my email later this week. And then for those that like to continue, they will be allowed to drop at my and in my same bin. I will set it up. So we're working that out. And so that was really nice. Pesticide. So when I table, I have everything. I have the National Resource Inventory. I have the low mow. I have the pesticide. And then I have the composting and the Quiet Niskayuna stuff. So I talk to a whole variety of people every Saturday from 8:30 to 11:30. So I think that's about it.
Yeah, I did that for like 2 hours, Ellen, and it is a lot of work. So I'm just recognizing how much effort you're putting into that and the commitment, and it's really making a difference, and I appreciate it.
Well, I'm hopeful that with the data that we get, that we will be able to open another composting station similar to the one that we have at the senior center somewhere on this side of town, so that we can have another drop. And I also really want to connect with the library garden crew. I did make a phone call over there to try to figure out how to reach them, but that fell short a little bit. So I will, I'm going to stop in again and try again. So it's on my radar. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments? What about about low mow? Does anybody have any? So I haven't heard back. I sent the reviews for the low mow on the disc golf and that, and how that was working. I know Roy was very sad because it had destroyed some habitat for our ground nesting birds. I did make. I found somebody that is working at Momentum, and I'm really hopeful that we can build a partnership with them, because they are a sustainable company, and they build sustainability, and that's what they do. So I'm hoping that we can connect with them and plant some trees out on that beautiful lawn, and maybe cut down some, or make what they have to mow less. So that's my plan for the winter. So that brings us up to Quiet Niskayuna.
Yeah. I haven't done anything with the website because I feel like I'm more focused on the legislative part of this. So I sent this to the board. I realized I forgot Chuck. Apologies on that, but I sent it to everybody else. It is in the packet. Wrote up kind of executive summary, and then even my proposed language that I feel like we can slot into the town code, which I did look through. There were a couple sections it could have gone. It could have gone in noise. It could have gone in brush, grass, and weeds. But I think property maintenance is the best choice. The brush, grass, and weeds, to be frank, like the penalties are like $25. Like, I just don't think that's the right spot for it. There's nothing else about anything about equipment in there. And then noise, we talked about this last time. Dart brought it up. These concerns go beyond noise. So I think it makes a bigger statement to put it in property maintenance. And then we've got the noise, the public health, the environmental piece, all of that stuff as part of this. So anybody get a chance to read it?
Yeah, can I just ask how you came up with December 15th as the end date?
Sure. Borrowed from Westchester County and a lot of
Okay.
the other places that have done this. Some did December 15th, some did December 1st, some did even earlier, but the 15th to me, I looked also at our leaf schedule,
That's great.
and that by then there's no more leaf pickup, so I feel like that's fair. To me, this is a good first step. Some places have done this and then gone right to an outright ban after a couple seasons. But yeah.
So I looked at it and I liked it. I was so I had a couple of things. So from our national, from the NRI, one of the places where Niskayuna is high, I think it's like line 44 in our document or something, is that we're really high on our pollution for lawn equipment in Niskayuna. So I really thought that maybe we should put this in there either. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be in part of this, but I think it definitely needs to be part of the of how we present this, because it's just not coming from anywhere that we have, so this is why we do these, why we spend the time to do these natural resource inventories, what the information that we get from them, and how we can proceed to make the environment in our community better. So I think that should be part of it. That was really all that I had to say about it. I was wondering is if we should allow for can't believe I'm saying this, but any spring cleanup for any dates in the spring where you would want to allow this. I can just think of, one where we have gotten a snow, at Thanksgiving, and then, then that's that, and nobody can, nobody that, people stop, but maybe, but anyways, that they can't pick up their leaves in the
I
fall.
would tell them to get on electric.
Yay, here. Yeah. So, okay. I agree. So, that wasn't hard.
I mean,
I don't mean to
You
shoot
did bring
right
up-
down.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you bring up a good point, because the snow blowers are equally as, loud and gas consuming. And so I wonder if that even merits inclusion in some of this language as well. Because, and those start at 4 a.m. for people who need to get out.
Yeah,
That's
gonna
very
be-
exciting.
That's going to be a tougher sell, but what we could do is
I agree.
try to slot this in there and build off of it later.
Yeah, that makes
And-
sense.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the leaf blower technology is that it's really come a long way. And I don't know this, but I wonder if you look at the what people are buying, it may have even tipped to more often than not, you're getting an electric one at this point. The snowblower technology is evolving. Like my dad just bought a
They're
electric
fantastic.
snowblower and he loves it. He actually puts it in his car and drives it over to my driveway and helps me my driveway with it because I don't shovel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the technology is still really new on the snow blowers. So
Yeah, right. It's,
they are
if
way
we're
quieter.
looking for a quiet community,
Yeah.
then it's quiet all 4 seasons. So, I mean, I'm fine with, I think this is great work. I fully support this, but, I do think that the noise is the issue, regardless of the season, and whether what these devices are just, noisemakers.
Hold
So,
on.
and that's the pollution that I'm concerned about, the noise pollution.
Yeah.
And I think the leaf blowers are comparable in price. I don't know how the gas, but I mean, I think it's evolving because lawnmowers are loud too. But I have electric lawnmower and it's much less loud.
This is really
And also it was the third parties coming in, right? I mean, and I know this is hard to legislate, but and I think, Vicky had this issue too. I mean, it's just from Monday at 8 o'clock, through Friday at 5. There isn't any quiet hours anymore in our neighborhood. It's, one service after another coming in, hour, different house, different hour. But to try to find an hour of quiet time between Monday and Friday outside these days in the summertime is, it's nigh impossible.
So I think it looks great. I really liked it. I really appreciate the effort that you put into it. And,
Yes.
and I definitely think that, where, I also wanted to, put in there the number of Westchester communities in New York State that, all the different, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the language that we use for a thing, but again, part
in the
of
summary.
in the summary of why, this, we're not breaking ground on something that is, totally new and way out there, where this is something that is
Legislated and litigated already.
Yeah. So
We'll add that this week. So how do we go from a citizen has a great idea for a law to the board voting on it, the town board voting on it?
Yeah, so the next step would be that that we actually propose the local law. This would need a little bit more than what's written on the proposed language. Like, you probably also need to add some definitions and things, actually separated out from here. But I mean, I think the bulk of it and the research in the back up for it is probably there already, so pretty easy to do. But yeah, then the CAC would vote on a recommendation of the town board to adopt that local law, and it would go to the Economic Development Committee meeting. I could probably put it on for November, at least to begin with, and then take it from there to the town board.
So this board can propose a new law, and then that would go before the town board or other boards.
Yeah, anyone can propose a new law. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Whether or not it gets adopted is a different story. But I think that that we have talked about this as the next step before, and I know that John Delarada has been interested in seeing what the next step would be. So this is the logical next step from the adoption of the Quiet Niskayuna.
So who's the person in the town that would help, or am I the one that would do that with the definitions, or to mark this up and say, you still need to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah, it would either be me or the town attorney.
Okay.
I'm busy, but not as busy as the town attorney. So you'd probably just want to schedule a meeting with me. And then you guys would have to decide who is taking the project before the town board. So like Dart sometimes does the presentation of the town board. You could see if you wanted him to do it or if you wanted to take it.
Okay. I'll add some metrics like we talked about to the top, but otherwise send it to you, this board, and the attorney, and ask for a meeting time.
So maybe let's do her first and a meeting, and then after we get our ducks in
Okay,
a row,
sure.
then we'll go to the attorney.
Okay.
And then it, and try to shoot to get on the economic, which is usually in the beginning
Yeah,
of
so it's
November,
probably like November 5th or something like that.
November 5th.
Okay.
Just to give you a time frame. So see what we can do.
Okay.
That sound good?
Sounds good.
Does anybody else have any other comments or suggestions or?
Yeah, I have one minor comment in the last paragraph for the how a leaf blower is defined. It's specifically said by gasoline.
Yeah.
So then do we need to add a gasoline powered leaf blower is defined as?
Yeah, you do. Right? Because this is like theoretically every law that we write can be litigated, so they have to have very clear definitions. You wouldn't actually put the definition in the proposed language. In your definition section, you're going to have a definition for a gas or diesel powered leaf blower, and then you're going to have a definition for an electric and battery powered leaf blower. And then you don't explain what they are in the proposed language. You just say you can have this one then and that one then. But I mean, it's basically all here. Just have to move it around a little. But yeah, that's a really good point, Joy.
Great. Does anybody else have any comments or suggestions that they would like to make on this? Okay, so that brings us to, sorry, I didn't, all right, so that brings us to wildlife corridors. So,
I mean, I think we could probably leave this on, even though Georgia decided to leave us. Hopefully, she'll come back someday. But hey,
yes. So Georgia decided to step away from the CAC. She sent us all an email, but I just want to publicly thank her for bringing all the wildlife corridors to our attention, to making it important, to so that in Niskuna we are now paying attention to it, and hopefully if things come across, she can rejoin us, or also, you know, things come up that she can share with us that she notices that that they'll become a part of what we do as well. So
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
like there's still a long-term goal of making some wildlife corridor like maps that we could put on our website or something. So I'll leave that on. We may not have a lot of updates, but I think it'd be useful. And in the spirit of Georgia, I was a little bit late coming to the meeting because I tried to get here at 6:30 because I had a flock of like 20 turkeys in my yard.
yay.
It was really cool.
Yes. And
I
so,
didn't want
yeah.
to disturb them because I love them.
And also, you know, who knows, maybe somebody, you know, on the committee, you know, shares this same passion and might also, you know, want to pick up where Georgia left off, or to contact her and see what you guys can collaborate, or see where everything is at, and, you know, and go from there. So I think it's important to leave it on there. My personal opinion. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, so let's move on to the sustainability checklist.
It just needs one more meeting with me, probably, because I'm going to send the sustainability checklist to Niskuna Harbor anyway. Like, I think I've sent it to GE once before too. It
Okay.
is okay to share. It really just needs that one final, you know, hour of sprucing it up.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you after that.
Okay. Honestly, I think until the comprehensive plan is up, it's probably going to be like, maybe we could do this in December, but
Okay, that sounds like that's fair. That's fair. Okay, and then we have the SEAC. Is that how you say it? Seeker, SEAC,
Skia.
Skia. SEAC.
Not much to update other than apparently I'm still co-chair because even though my term technically expired June 30th, ended, we don't have a new one. And I found out that means I'm still it. Well, Heather Ipson and I are co-chairs. So at our last meeting, we voted on a new chair, Jasenia McCauley. And the legislature is not going to be able to vote on that until November. I was really hoping for October, which would normally be what would happen. But the sustainability coordinator for the county manager, Charlie Davidson, who serves on SKIAC as an ex officio member, is on a not so short vacation. And so he normally is the one to get things going, and we couldn't manage to get that through. So at least until November, I still serve as co-chair.
Okay.
In general, I don't know if this is something to bring up, but in general, we have trouble communicating with the legislature. So there are two legislators who are supposed to be coming to our meetings, and they don't come. So when I was having trouble getting this resolution into the right people's hands because Charlie was on vacation, I got no response from them, and I had to reach out to Austerlich, actually, since she's my legislator. And she was very helpful.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
This might just be an offline conversation, but do you know what the legislation is that creates SKIAC? Do you know where that lives?
I have a link to the bylaws, if that's
The bylaws,
Yeah.
yeah. That would be really interesting because you're the first SKIAC appointee from the town of Niskuna that has ever really given us any information on SKIAC.
Oh.
But I do think that it is helpful for us to
coordinate with the county and know what they're recommending on, because I remember, I'm gonna mess up her name, so I'm not gonna say it, but there was two ladies that were working really hard on the Hemlock woolly adelgid invasive species plan that one came through
Maybe
SCIAC. and
Kathy
this is-
Fisher.
Yeah, Kathy, and then
Mhm.
there's
I don't know who
another
else it would be
lady,
though.
yeah. And anyway, I mean, it was very relevant to Niskuna, and we didn't even realize that it was going on, except that she reached out to us. So, I mean, I do think that SCIAC does stuff that's really helpful here. So I think that having the regular touch base point would be really a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm eventually will be the liaison, I guess. So I thought I was, but it's kind of both. Does anybody else have any questions on SCIAC?
So I just was curious about, so I know that they are, that they're interested in building, a compost facility station down in Hetcheltown Road. Is that,
Hmm.
is that in your purview, or is that something that you work on with them?
Not
or-
really. I mean, we get updates on that.
Okay.
Nick Klemchak from Soil and Water.
Yes.
He's really in charge of that.
Yeah.
But he reports to us about what's going on with that. And I think
Okay.
they're working on permitting and everything.
Yeah. I was just curious because okay. All right.
Like what I've seen come from SCIAC have been like really good planning documents or guidance documents on invasive species. Some initiatives at the county level, like didn't you guys get the county to ban pesticide?
Well, that's Ashok.
use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's how Ashok came to join SCIAC. Really.
So like even just little updates of like those
Yeah.
wins, and then hey, can you bring that over to us
Yeah.
or whatever? I think that'd be really helpful.
We passed a resolution that it was like a skip the stuff
Yeah.
law, but the ledge did not. They
Yeah.
wouldn't consider it, but we did also. As a council, we passed a resolution, but that was. So instead, we have an initiative that's not a law called, it's a restaurant sustainability initiative that we have with Discover Schenectady. I don't know if anyone's heard about that.
Yeah.
There was a press release on that, but Heather Ibsen and I, and then a member of the community, Nancy Tudor, worked on that together. So we have an update. We're supposed to meet with Discover Schenectady in like a week or so to get an update, like see how many restaurants have signed up to be a part of that. And I still want a filter on the website so you can filter by what restaurants have signed up.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know how you're supposed to know. Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have one more comment. Would it be helpful to have some website just for some information for this? Because I could only find Facebook page about the
So it does exist, and I don't know why it doesn't come up when you Google it. That has been a problem, but SCIAC has an official page on the county site.
Oh, could you email it to us?
Sure.
Yeah, because the Route 7 site does that for some reason. You Google it and it doesn't come
Yeah.
up. But if you have the direct link, you can get to it. I don't know what that algorithm is.
No idea, and it's been a problem. But that page is something that Heather and I asked for and finally got. Keeping it updated is an issue 'cause it has to be someone from the county doing it. But yeah,
But we could link to it from our website too.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Maybe we could put it under ours. And then I think maybe just what we need to know is how we can help move forward things at the county level to let them know that, we're listening, we're paying attention, and we would, and we're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're doing stuff, and we want to make sure that the county's doing stuff and
Yep.
and what that looks like.
Yep.
So
For sure. Well, now you have me and Ashok who are both on both.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just didn't. What I'm saying is perfect. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I have another initiative that I wanted to talk about,
Oh.
if that's possible.
I'm good with that. Is everyone okay? Go ahead.
So, compost at Craig Elementary. It's back up and running for the year, for this school year. We're using a different company. We were using Food Scraps 360. Now we're using, I can't remember the name of it, but it is a vermicompost company.
I know.
Yeah, he's been at the farmers market, the Schenectady farmers market.
Yeah.
Oh, is he the one that you can buy the bags of?
Yeah.
Those are great.
We have gotten grants to pay for this at the school. Both years, last year and this year, it's the Niskayuna Community Foundation, but they've made it clear that this will be the last year. Usually you don't get repeat awarded grants. So we are trying to schedule a meeting with Principal Anders. Well, he's trying to schedule a meeting with a couple of whoever he thinks is important to see if we can get this like proposed for the school budget for the future. And I know that that is something they vote on soon. So we're hoping to get that.
For the school budget?
Yeah. So that,
They usually start putting the school budget together in December.
yeah, that's what I mean by
January,
soon.
Yeah.
So we want to get in front of them for that because we do have alternative options, but I mean, my goal would be to have it in the budget so we can stop worrying about it every year.
Yeah, that's a fair, yeah. And since it has already been at a school, you have parameters and guidance of how much it costs, what it looks like.
Yeah.
What the extra lift is from people and what they need to do.
Yeah.
Which is, I worked with, I tried, and over at St. Cattery to do the same thing,
Yeah.
but they did not have the budget. So we went with educational stuff and then supported their garden.
Okay.
But their garden. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would really, so.
It's not that it's under 2,000 a year. So that's pretty good.
Carly,
But that's for Craig
for
and
that
we're
dollar spent, because composting is a double greenhouse gas sucker upper because
The energy.
the energy it takes to haul the waste, and then also when you put the compost back in the soil can absorb carbon better. So it's like a double whammy. So I bet you if Jim Younger was like able to do the calculation, those dollars spent, like $2,000 to remove that from the waste stream, I'm sure it pays for itself.
environmentally speaking, like,
Well,
also your trash
Yes,
pickup, I
but
guess.
even because some people don't like the environmental spending, like it actually pays for itself in a lot of other ways too, like hauling costs and everything. Usually, it ends up being cost effective.
Yeah. My goal is to spread it to more schools, but
Yeah.
one thing at a time.
So I would be happy to work with you on that with the schools
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
and and what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else that is that they would like to bring before the committee here before we close out for lovely October 8th?
Nope.
Okay, so hearing none, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting of October 8th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no abstains, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.